Hello, I'm Terry and welcome to another video. I'm back with my Flintlock rifle. This is a Lyman Great Plains rifle in 54 caliber Flintlock. Quick history lesson here. Calling this a Great Plains rifle is itself a bit misleading because this configuration of rifle would likely not have been seen out on the Great Plains, which was the post-Civil War era, opening up the West, buffalo hunters, all of that, even though this is sometimes called a buffalo gun. It's actually probably more historically correct to the earlier mountain man days of Colorado, the Rocky Mountains, which started around 1822 and ran until around 1840. And while caplocks did exist during that period, the prevailing firearm really at that time was the flintlock. You got to remember that at this time, 1820s, 30s, 40s, the flintlock had a 200-year proven history of reliability. The caplock was brand new, and a lot of people didn't really trust them all that much at first. The caplock won over eventually, but it took a while to become accepted. So while we think of the Hollywood myth of the mountain men, much like the old Robert Redford movie, Jeremiah Johnson, all firing caplocks, the caplock really didn't make it out into the Rocky Mountains at least the second half of the 1830s. I hate to say 1835 because I don't know that one was actually in the Rockies at 1835, but it clearly would have been the last half, right at the end of the mountain man days. So this is actually more historically accurate to call it a mountain man rifle. It's in 54 caliber. It has double set triggers, which I'll go into here on how that works here in a bit, what that is. Of course, the flintlock. And this nice curved buttstock that I'm sure everybody has seen on a mountain man or a buffalo gun. Occasionally when I'm out at the range shooting, well, I always get a crowd. I think I'm the only person in Alabama shooting flintlock anymore. But occasionally somebody will ask me about this curved stock. Did that help stabilize it against the shoulder better? And the answer is no. It doesn't actually fit against the shoulder. For that you really need a flat buttstock. It actually fits right onto that spot between the upper arm and shoulder, right in there. See, it's not really on the shoulder. You can see here, it's not on the shoulder. That's really where that fits. And with the cheek piece, you don't really lean your head over in sight because this thing's got some kick to it. You basically rest on that cheek piece and just kind of sight down the barrel, but that's what that's for. Double set triggers. What this does is, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but you see there's a little screw in between those two triggers. Well, that's an adjustment screw. And if I put this, I'm going to raise the frizzen because I don't want to wear my flint down. If I put this on full cock and I pull the trigger, front trigger, it will fire, it'll shoot, but it's got a heavy trigger pull. I've never measured it, but I'm going to guess 3 to 4 pounds, maybe 5 pounds. I don't think so, but maybe 4 at least. But it will shoot. But if you notice here, I'm going to pull this back trigger and you'll hear it click, hopefully, and you'll see that front trigger jiggle just a little. Now, you probably didn't see that, but you heard the click, I hope. Now, when I just barely touch that trigger, let's try that again, full cock, just barely touch it. You see that? I just barely touched it, about a half a pound. And I've set this down to what feels like about a half a pound. By tightening that screw in a little more, I can increase the weight a little. With this particular rifle, I can't really take it out below half a pound. It just goes off on its own sometimes. So I've set it for a ½ pound, and that's where I keep it. Now the advantage to this is really in long range accuracy, because a lot is going on when you pull the trigger on a flintlock. The lock falls forward against the frizzen, the flint generates a spark, it pushes the frizzen back, exposing the flash pan, the powder in the flash pan ignites, it burns through a touch hole into the barrel, sets off the main charge, and then the ball goes out the barrel. Yeah, that's a lot, and even though it only takes a few milliseconds, if you have a heavy trigger pull at a long range, you can end up jerking around a little bit. Whereas with that very light touch, with that set trigger, it just goes off. And so it helps hold the rifle steady, and that helps increase its accuracy over range. It has adjustable front sight, and I can adjust it here for what I call windage. It's left and right, horizontal. And I can also adjust it for elevation by simply filing this down. I can't bring it back if I get too much, but I could always file that down a little bit if I need to. And then we got the rear sight here. It's got a adjustment screw, and it's also dovetailed, so I can adjust it left or right, and then I can use a set screw to adjust it vertically. As you've noticed, I've also got another pumpkin. Gee, I wonder what I could do with that pumpkin. Let's load this baby up and see what it does. Now first, loading. You're going to put it on half cock, and you're going to notice that I don't load the flash pan first. A lot of people do. They load the flash pan, they put a protective cover on the frizzen, so if this thing goes off, it doesn't create a spark. But that's really with the old muskets, the smoothbore muskets, the British musket in particular, where you had to have the cock on full cock in order to load it. And there was a pretty good chance that thing could go off while you're loading, while you're ramming a ball down the barrel, which you did not want. Also, the powder came in paper cartridges. You had the powder, the ball, usually buck and ball. There was some buckshot and a lead ball all together in a cartridge. You'd bite the end off, prime the flash pan, and then you'd put the rest down the barrel. Well, I don't actually shoot that way. I load the barrel first with powder and ball, then I load the flash pan, and then I'm at half cock. Okay, so it can't shoot. This thing cannot shoot. And then I'm ready to go hunting. So, yes, I have a powder horn. This is just an Amazon powder horn. It's like 22 bucks, I think. It's really nothing fancy. And anybody who really knows anything about the period of the 1820s, late 1700s, early 1800s, would know this is not historically accurate, but that's okay. So we're going to load 80 grains of powder. You'll notice I'm not using a powder measure, and that's because I have fired this particular rifle with this particular powder horn enough to know that a steady 8 count is 80 grains of triple F GoX black powder. I do not shoot double F in the rifle, and then I do not use priming powder 4F in the pan. I use the same powder, triple F, for the main charge and the flash pan, and I shoot triple F in my revolvers. That way, if I go out into the field, I only need to carry one powder horn. It's just me. I mean, if you want to use double F and 4F and 3F, you want to carry all that stuff and you can keep them all straight, go ahead. All I need is this. And actually, when I'm loading my revolvers, I don't really use a powder measure much for them anymore either, because I can look in the chamber and I can see when the powder is 3/4 of the way up the chamber, stick a lead ball in, ram it down. Duh. So, 8 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Done. Now I'm going to tamp it a little, and that's just to make sure everything gets all the way down. And I also do have a possibles pouch. I have a pouch, although again I don't use it very often, but I do have one. Took them out, missed them. We're going to take out a greased patch. And I think in my previous video I referred to this as a powder seat. Yeah, I've heard it called a lot of things by different people, but I think that's the first time I've ever heard it called a powder seat. I think it's the first time I've ever said that. I heard it called different things. When I was growing up learning how to shoot black powder, we called this a ball set. Some people also call it a short set because you use it to push the ball down a short distance into the barrel, which makes it easier to put the ram on. But let me demonstrate that instead of just talk about it. We'll put this patch here. I've got a ball. This is a 54 caliber lead ball, soft lead, right in the center. And then we use this small brass stud in here to seat it down in. Then I use the longer one here to push it down about that far, Now I can take the ramrod and seat it home. And on other YouTube videos you will see people not using the wood ramrod that comes with the rifle. They'll have a special steel ramrod with a protective collar on it for the muzzle and all that. It's a good idea. I mean, I don't have anything against them, but I don't use them. But now we're just going to seat this down, and we're going to make sure that's all the way down. And there we are. Now we're going to put a little powder in the flash pan. Get up here so you can see me doing this. Just about like that. If you can, probably can't see that very well, but see, just a little powder in it. Close it up, blow on it to remove any extra. And let's move back a bit and see what this thing will do to a pumpkin. I think I got him. Let's go look. Alright, so it was a low hit, but a hit. Nevertheless, I think I flinched just a little when I touched it off. And again, let me move this tripod out of the way. We've got pumpkin, little pieces of pumpkin all over the ground. And I don't know. There, you can see daylight through there. That's the entry wound right there. And the exit wound over here, not bad. So as always, thanks for watching and see you next time.